King J back with another video. But today, I'm not alone. And I actually mean it. Before I usually say it and there's another guest to the other side of me. But now I have a guest in the studio. And his name is KaneAndTrench, man. How you doing, man?
I'm glad to be here, man. It's great to be part of Teach Me once again. And it's been a while since we've done things together. So let's get it rolling, man.
That's what I'm saying. We was once a part of District G, which is obviously the team for Tekken 7. Yep. You know, Kane, if you need an introduction, he's just like, as a Yoshi main, like everyone globally knows of this name. We're talking about, you know, musician from Korea, like all these different players that are, you know, Yoshimitsu specialists know about him, and even the players outside of Yoshi, you know, they respect the name. Done a lot. Tekken 7, Tekken 8, he's here, you know, and he's here to stay for a while, I'd like to say. So you can teach me how Yoshi works, because I want to be a bit of a tear whore, and you know what I'm saying? Nah, I'm joking, but yeah, let me know what you think about Yoshimitsu in Tekken 8.
So Yoshi as a character has always been a very stance heavy, setup heavy character with a plethora of unblockables, lots of stance options, but essentially in Tekken 8 now he's gotten some new tools and strings to complement his overall offense in the neutral, as well as his combo game and his damage, because his damage was actually one of his weaknesses in the previous games.
Sure.
And Tekken 8 has now given him that benefit on top of everything he already had, as far as unblockables and stances. So I think he's a very strong character in this game. Easily the strongest iteration of Yoshi so far.
The strongest?
The strongest.
That's crazy. Man said the strongest. That is crazy. So, you know what? You're right. If we're not including Soul Calibur.
I mean, that's Soul Calibur, man.
Yeah.
If anything, this version has been partly inspired by
Soul Calibur
6 Yoshi, so yeah.
I had a feeling. So, alright, so let's talk about the key moves with Yoshimitsu. Let's say like around 7 to 10 key moves that you think are really good and you should use as someone that's picking up Yoshimitsu.
Okay, so the first one I would definitely say, if we start off basic, is his 1-1. It's his basic 2-hitting jab string. It's safe on block. It's also his 10-frame punish. So safe at -9. So while you, in theory, give up your turn, given he does have tools like flash and spin, what makes this move so good is specifically the counter hit properties he gets out of it. Not just the fact that it's a chunky punish on hit with +4 advantage. So to demonstrate, because he has 2 versions now due to his no sword stance rework in this game, so this on counter hit will guarantee you have a bunch of follow-ups to choose from. So you could basically do like forward +2, which is also a new version of forward +2 for flip over Oki. You can do CD1, which will make them roll back, but it's still a good Oki option. Or if you want an easy one in case you're not confident in the follow-up, you can just do a down 3 or something like up back 1+2. You have a bunch of options.
Okay.
And then the scary stuff comes from when he does this in no sword stance or in heat, where if he hits you with the second hit, it does that. And this is something that when I first saw it, I was extremely surprised. I never expected Yoshi to get a bounce counter hit launch like that. And the reason why this is very significant is because of the fact that people love to challenge jabs on block a lot because it's only +1. So him having a follow-up like that makes people very prone to getting counter hit. So when he has his sword put away or he's in heat, if people challenge him, they are going to lose a lot of health for it. And not only that, but you saw the effect there earlier when he lands this, because this is part of his new no sword stance rework, he actually gets health back from connecting the hit as well. So that's a really important factor in his character design in this game.
So just for clarification, because I know we can't cut off the health bars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like, when you say he gets back health, are you talking about like health that's the recoverable chip damage, or are you talking about actual health?
Both. So essentially, when he has grey health in this game, when he has that soul stealing effect where it passes from the opponent into him, if he has grey health, he heals a massive chunk. I believe it's like 10 points of health alongside the health he's already getting back from connecting the move. And if he has no grey health, then I think he heals about 4 points of real health. Because essentially what they've done to his healing now is he can't heal from meditation no more. So they designed him in this game to heal through aggression.
I didn't know that he doesn't. So meditation, when he's on the floor, he doesn't heal.
When he's doing Indian, or he does standing meditation.
Yeah, it doesn't heal normal health.
It only heals grey health now, not real health. If you do the flash though, the no soul stance flash, which we're going to get into in a moment, it will heal slightly less health, but everything else it heals a good chunk of health.
Okay, nice.
The next key move I want to mention is 3-4. So this is where you tap 3 and then you quickly press 4 afterwards. This is a very chunky double mid hitting poke with lots of frame advantage, especially if you transition to Dragonfly on hits by holding up. From here you have basically a bunch of options to go for on with Dragonfly. You can choose to go for a mid or a low. Or even this, another one of his new moves. There's a bunch of options, but bear in mind, as good as this mid poke is, it is susceptible to being sidestepped to the left.
Okay.
So don't throw this move out too carelessly, as good as it is, because there are situations where even the first hit will connect, but the second hit does whiff in weird situations.
And to stay in Manji Dragonfly, you just hold up.
Just hold up, but be careful that doing this is quite dangerous, because if they block 3-4 and you hold up, regardless of the option that you choose, a jab will beat you and float you out. So you kind of have to visually confirm that you've hit them if you want to safely use Dragonfly options afterwards.
Okay.
But in the neutral, you can just choose not to go into Dragonfly, and even then it's still a good poke, decent frame advantage, and when it does land, you can carry on your offense.
Nice.
Another very, very strong key move that I insist that all Yoshi players use is Sidestep 1. I cannot stress enough how good this mid is. Easily one of his best mids in the game. So it's safe at -9, and because it's a sidestep move, he's obviously already using movement to evade any linear moves that come his way. And I feel like the move itself has some built-in evasion, because after you move, he's also moving a little bit more as he does the attack. Yeah. And then on counter hit, he gets a full launch. So aside from being a chunky hitting poke by itself, he gets a counter hit launch out of it. So again, I would insist that all Yoshi players use this move. It even has a little bit of pushback on block as well, so you can kind of backdash afterwards just to get a feel for if your opponent's going to press buttons. So definitely a very strong key move, I would say. If we're talking about lows, down back 3-3 is definitely a key low. Decent damage for a low poke. And from here you have a bunch of options you can go for. So you can do a mid kick to make him safer, which if this gets blocked, it's actually risky to go for this, but this is where the mind game comes in, because the thing about down back 3-3, the reason they do the mid kick afterwards a lot of the time is because if you do down back 3-3 by itself, he's actually incredibly minus both on hit and block. So I believe if I do just that, I'll be -7. But if you block it and I do nothing, you can actually launch me. I'm actually extremely minus. So this is where the mind game comes in, where people choose to press or not, because he has the mid kick, but they'll try to take their advantage if they think that he's not going to do the mid kick. So there's a very deep mind game hiding behind this. He also has other things to go for as well. He can go into Ishin from this, where if he feels like they're going to try and go for their standard punish, which I believe you can punish him up to 13 frames after this, he can choose to go into Ishin stance with down 3+4 afterwards.
How do I do that?
So you do down back 3-3 and then down 3+4. Yeah, so you can choose to go into this afterwards, and it can potentially mitigate whatever they will do to him. But if they read that he's going to do that, then they can just do a normal float combo. So again, very deep mind games.
Okay, cool.
And another addition about the mid kick that he can do afterwards, as I actually demonstrated earlier, you can hold back after the mid kick, so down back 3-3-4, and he will put the sword away when you hold back. Yeah. So this is like
you don't even see him put the sword away.
Yeah, exactly. So this is like a safe way to enter no sword stance, which I will get into later, because no sword stance is a very important stance in this game.
Yeah.
And he does also access Kincho stance from this as well, with 1+2 after the mid kick.
What?
So you have options. Yeah.
Nah, I did not know this about Yoshi. This is crazy.
But the mid kick itself is minus at -8, so it will be risky to go for Kincho stance if it gets blocked. Just bear that in mind.
Okay.
Another key low, full crouch down forward 4. This low is extremely notorious for its range, being a homing move, being 18 frames. 18 frames fast. At the minute you enter crouch, so it's not reactable at all. You kind of have to preemptively be ducking in order to defend against it. It's also a counter hit launch as well. Yeah, it's a counter hit launch as well, so you can get a full combo from it. So this low is extremely good. It even crushes highs and at times mids because of how low he goes to the floor. So very evasive, very good low. Of course, the major disadvantage about this low is that it is a stagger low, so if it does get blocked, he's launch punishable. But it is one of the lows you kind of have to go for in the neutral, as it's one of his like best lows in terms of range, damage, as well as options that he has afterwards, because the recent thing they've added to him with this low is with version 1.05, where you do this into down 3+4, and it goes into Indian stance. And why is this a problem? It's because it's +8 on hit when he goes into Indian stance. Meaning that he has an option from Indian stance which recently got a homing property in 3+4, which if they press after this on hit, it's going to clip them. The only option that will beat this is if you choose to heat burst right away. So if I do this and you get hit by the low, if you mash heat burst afterwards on hit.
Oh, sorry.
Well, that still works technically. Yeah. So if you have your heat burst available, or if you have a character that can do their power crush directly from crouch, like say for example Nina's Blonde Bomb, then you will be able to beat this option. But in general situations, this move kind of locks you down because it's a low homing move into a mid homing move. So very, very, very strong.
So what is the combo you do from counter hit this one?
Okay, so to demonstrate a counter hit combo, I can do something simple like this. So this is just a basic combo. Like this is not optimal,
yeah,
but it's one of many examples that you can choose. Because he has so many different combo routes in this game now.
Nice.
Now, obviously, in terms of key moves, we obviously have to mention this one, Flash. So Flash is his main defensive option in this game alongside the evasion spin. 6 frames fast with the sword out, 8 frames fast with the sword put away. Before this used to launch, what this does now is that if it connects, if you just walk forward into me, it's a bit hard due to the nerfed hitbox.
Let me just...
Actually, if you do the hop knee, do up forward 3, because then it'll be easier. Yeah, so now what it does is that it leaves him +14 on hit, so this guarantees a heat engager in back 2-2, which is very strong because he does a chunk of damage immediately into heat into mix-up. So Flash, even though it doesn't launch no more with the sword out, it's still just as dangerous a tool as it's ever been before. So do not sleep on this defensive tool with Yoshi at all. It is very, very strong. And then with the no sword stance version, as usual, it's got increased range, but it still launches. And he's still able to get the back 2-2 heat engager as well if you so choose. Even though you can get a full combo from this, you can choose to do back 2-2 still to get the standing frames hits if you want the heat. Which means if you are in heat already when you get this launch, that means he can do a back 2-2 heat dash launch combo as well. So it is incredibly strong. And because of Flash being 6 frames or 8 frames fast respectively, it does have the ability of punishing moves that no other character can punish depending on the move that it is. So if it's at least -6 or more, and the move is like going into Yoshi, then Flash will punish. And the most obvious example of this would be something like Feng's down forward 2-2, where he's going like the double tap palm. He's moving into you, so it's an easy punish for Yoshi. So yeah, always lab your Flash options as well, because knowing how to use Flash effectively is key to being very good with this character. Just don't be reckless and throw out Flash too much to defend yourself, because the thing about the Yoshi matchup is that players that know the character, they will always be looking for windows to bait the Flash. Because if they bait you successfully, then they will just launch you, or at the very least get a decent punish on you. So always vary up your Flash timing to not let yourself be predictable.
Okay, cool.
I guess to round it off, just to not go too long on this, in terms of like the most key whiff punish, I would say he would have. The most key whiff punish to use in neutral is his back 2-2, which, as I mentioned earlier, is his 14 frame heat engager, has a lot of range, chunky damage, and because it's a heat engager as well, it is also a launch as well. Yeah, chunk of range. Any whiff you see, like if you sidestep or even minus 14, always make sure you're using this move. And then as you see, if you just walk into me real quick, it's a full launch, and it can lead into a chunky combo like this, which as heat dash combos go, it goes on forever. But
I could do flash with it too.
Yeah, so this is the move that's guaranteed after flash. So hold it if I dash it to you. It is awkward with the nerf hitbox. Before it would be hitting all the time. So yeah, that's always your optimal follow-up. One thing I did fail to mention earlier with flash, however, there are some very niche situations which aren't practical in a real match, but if you have the awareness, if flash hits late, he actually has more plus frames than 14, potentially meaning that he can actually get a guaranteed hop knee after normal flash. But again, this is very niche. Only do this if you're actually comfortable in your visual confirm. Yeah. But otherwise, just take the back 2-2 follow-up. Like, it's the easiest follow-up you can get. It's guaranteed, so yeah, don't risk something you don't have to.
So what about so when you said whip punch, I thought you were going to talk about down forward 2, because I feel like down forward 2 is a really good tool.
Yeah, so down forward 2 is also really, really good. Like, obviously, it's as generic as down forward 2s go. Obviously, it doesn't launch crouches, but the thing about this down forward 2 that I think it makes it quite notorious is that it has some built-in high crush frames. So like, depending on the time that your opponent chooses to jab, during the startup, you might actually crush a few highs here and there. So definitely don't sleep on Yoshi's down forward 2. I do feel like it has decent range as far as down forward 2s go as well. So definitely a very good whip punish to go for as well, because it is safe. It's not like his hop knee that's unsafe at minus 13. It's very good to throw this move out as keep out in the neutral, I would say. Yeah, so that I would say that's just a few examples of his key moves, because he has way more key moves that I could talk about. But yeah,
we'll be for ages.
We'll be for ages. His moveset is one of the biggest in the game. But definitely don't sleep on the moves that I have mentioned. They are very, very good neutral tools for Yoshi, and they carry him far. I use them a lot in all my tournament games.
Nice. All right, cool. So let's move on to his standing and while standing punishment.
Okay, so to start off with standing punishment. So as I mentioned before, 1-1. Safe 10 frame punish, very good to use in the neutral as well. Don't sleep on this move. It is okay to throw this move out, especially with the no sword stance version, as it has a chunkier hit property, more damage, healing, and lots of chip damage as well. And then for his 11 frame, interestingly, it's his 2-2. So if you so 2-2 does this hit property on hit, so it's plus 15 guard. So the reason why this is very crazy is because, first of all, 2-2 on hit knocks you on your bottom, and you are transitioning into no sword stance automatically unless you press 1+2 afterwards, in which case you will go into Kincho. What makes this so good is that he has this much frame advantage, and he is free to choose whatever option he wants from no sword or Kincho. So definitely don't sleep on this punish. Like, you can alternate between 1-1 and 2-2 if you feel like you're not too confident in the 2-2 punish, but the optimal punish against most moves that aren't minus 10 is definitely 2-2. This is a very strong punish, and I can understand why they made this 11, because his 2 jab actually used to be 10 frame, just like his 1 jab, but they had to change it to 11 purely for this reason. Okay, so 12 frame. 12 frame is a bit less applicable compared to 11 frame, but for 12 frame he has down forward 4, which is also a pretty good mid poke in the neutral as well. It's got good keep out potential, good pushback as well on block, so I would say, aside from being a punish, definitely use this as a neutral tool as well. And he also has 4-4, which, to be honest, I was actually surprised that they buffed this move. So this move used to come out at like 15 frames in Tekken 7. It never really saw much applicable use in that game. I mean, it was like a counter hit launcher if you committed to the whole thing, but it's easy to duck this string if they block the first hit. But now it comes out at 12 frames in this game, so I think in terms of this game, you can use this as a 12 frame punish to cover some range areas where his jabs might whiff, but these are very specific situations, so I wouldn't really use this as a punishment ideally. I would just generally stick with 1-1 or 2-2. For those kind of situations. Okay. For 13 frame, he's down forward 1-4. Not much to really say about this move, to be honest. It's just like your standard 13 frame mid. Just be careful throwing it out in the neutral, as it is minus 12. to just use this as your like standard whiff punisher alongside back 2-2, which obviously moving on to 14, we have back 2-2. The most ideal whiff punisher he has, easily one of the best whiff punishers in the entire game, I would say. He does also have CD2 at 14 frames, which is this. Only really use this if the opponent uses a -14 move at the wall, because this move does wall splat as well.
Okay.
And then for 15, you have your standard down forward 2 and his hop knee, both of which have very decent crushing properties. Down forward 2 does crush some highs due to the built-in evasion, and for some reason his hop knee in this game has the craziest evasion I've ever seen. I've seen it evade highs as well as mids. So that's the reason why you see a lot of Yoshimitsus throwing this out, just because of the evasion properties that it has. It is really good. And it even has some, like, you can see it has some knockback on hit, which complements his wall carry as well. And for his final punishment, which is, again, for very specific situations at 17 frames standing, is his CD1. You would usually only use this move on punishment against moves that are extremely minus on block that have, like, huge pushback. Examples being Paul's Death Fist, which, against that, you have to be frame perfect. Another move it reliably punishes is Jack's down 1+2, where he goes like it reliably punishes that as well. Jack's forward, down forward 1-2-1, you know, the machine gun punches he does, it launches that as well. So mainly use this punish for moves that have huge pushback but are incredibly minus as well, like Kuma's forward 2 as well, for example. And as a side note as well for standing punishment, as I mentioned earlier, Flash is a unique punish against certain moves that are -6 or above. So to move on to his while standing punishment, his while standing punishment is kind of unremarkable. But to start with, again, Flash, again, applied the same way as standing. Any lows that go into the character that are like -6 or more, you can use Flash to punish with, or in No Sword Stance Flash's case, can fully launch them as well. For 11, you've got standard while standing 4. Now, Yoshi's while standing 4 is actually the weakest in the game. It does only 14 damage on hit, so it doesn't do any chunky hits like other characters while standing 4s, like Kings. So for this reason, people are encouraged to use -13 lows a lot more against Yoshi, with the knowledge that he can't damage them as much for punishing those lows. You get a lot of situations where you'll block, say, a Dragunov down 2. Now, say you was using Law, for example, and the health was low, he would just do while standing 1-2 and win the round. Yoshi, in this instance, cannot. So you're put in a situation where it's one more neutral situation to win the round, because it's so weak. You do have a mind game with this punish, in that you can choose to ignore the punish and go for this instead, the sword sweep, because they're on chunky minus frames and they're thinking you're just going to take the punish. So if you choose to use the sword sweep, unblock the sword sweep that he does instead, this can be used as like a pseudo punish if they're not ready to react to it. So just bear that in mind if you don't want to take this punish. And some additional notes regarding while standing 4, he has transitions from this as well. So first of all, he has while standing 4 1+2, which is him going into Kinjo stance. This is a transition he gained from, I think it was season 2 or 3 of Tekken 7. So when you get the punish, you have +6 into whatever option you want to go for in Kinjo stance.
How are you doing this?
So it's just while standing 4 1+2.
Okay.
But bear in mind, the mix-ups from this stance are more fake than you would imagine. So it's worth to go for the option anyway, just to mix up your opponent. But bear in mind, nothing is really guaranteed from this, like, say, Laws while standing 4 counter hit, DSS.
Okay.
And then your other option is kind of similar to the down back 3-3-4. You can just use while standing 4 back, which in the neutral is a very safe way to get into no sword stance as well, which is also an encouragement to use a lot of no sword stance in this game. And now he actually doesn't have any punishment from that point until 14 frame. So he's a character that suffers from while standing punishment in this regard. His 14 frame punish is while standing 1-2.
That's with no sword though, isn't it? What's the one with sword?
Well, it's the same thing regardless.
Okay, yeah.
So if you walk forward to me here. So this move does about, I think it's 30 damage overall. 30 damage, a ballerina spin plus frames. Wall splats at the wall, but generally he's forced to use this as his punish for only very specific lows that are -14, which the cast don't really have a lot of. But I would say lab your lows where this punish works, because any damage helps in this situation. And of course, take the wall splat where you can get it. But honestly, I was pushing for this to be 13 frames, but we'll see what happens in the future, man. But that is his 14 frame punish. And then for 15 frames, you have a couple of options depending on what you want to go for. So let's reset to the middle quickly. So the most ideal punish is his while standing 2-1 twin pistons, because from this you immediately go into Dragonfly whether it hits or gets blocked. It leads to chunky damage, which I'm going to demonstrate. Now this is just a basic combo, that's just me not using heat, but he got a heal from that as well, so it was very, very good. And then of course, if you don't want to do twin pistons, you can just do Hopney. He can do Hopney from crouch as well, which again, as I said, is very evasive. So you have two options from while standing, but the most optimal is definitely while standing 2-1 in terms of range and damage, and of course risk mitigation, because if it does get blocked, you're only going to get float punished, which equals recoverable health. Yeah. So this is definitely something you can kind of like, I wouldn't recommend it, but you can kind of throw it out in the clutch if you're trying to make a hard read, like say hard duck while standing 2-1, or just do Hopney. Like both options work. But yeah, very, very good 15 frame punishment.
Okay.
And that's it.
Sick, man. I would like to say that it's really good the way how you're like explaining like the key moves and you know what moves you would use as standing punishment, while standing punishment. Like this character seems very complicated to kind of like explain to newcomers and people that want to try and get involved into the game. But you're breaking it down like so easily, because obviously Yoshi has so many stances, and we're not even going to cover the stances today. I feel like maybe talking about the stances, this video can go on for ages, because you know he's got a Manji Dragonfly.
Like a separate thing.
That's a separate thing. We can do that another time.
Stance breakdown.
Stance breakdown. Yeah, but like for now, for people that want to try and get involved with key moves, we've got that covered. Standing punishment, while standing punishment, that's covered. But I also want to talk about, we spoke about flash as well. I also want to talk about heat. Now, I got a little pun. Like, it's really hot. So if it looks like my eyes are fading or whatever, it's because we're really hot in there. Like, it's 30 degrees in the room. It's really, really hot. We got the door open, fan on, everything. But we need to talk about heat. We need to get this done. So heat. Let's talk about, like, you know, Yoshi in heat. Because I feel like when I see Yoshi getting heat, there's a lot of stuff that we need to look out for. But as someone that wants to learn Yoshi, what stuff should I be doing while I'm in heat?
Okay, so to start off with, obviously we're not talking about stances, but I just want to quickly make note of the fact that his heat is technically tied to his no sword stance, because the enhanced move properties he gets from that stance translates into his heat mode. So to describe it, to describe it in a way, his heat mode is his no sword stance, but with the sword already out. So he gets the hit properties and the healing and everything like that while the sword's already out. So I'm going to demonstrate a couple of NSS versions of moves just to put my point across. So say 1-1, down forward 3-1, up back 1+2, 3-2, 1+2. Okay, so those are some examples. Now if I go into heat, so his sword's already out, and notice the sword is glowing red with demonic energy. Now anything he does from no sword stance, he can do in one sword stance, and as you can see, it's ticking the gauge down. So what makes his heat extremely strong is the fact that he gets free access to these powerful moves for as long as he has heat gauge. And compared to a lot of the characters in this game, a lot of options he has doesn't consume too much heat gauge. Like he has a few options, like say 1-1. If you watch the gauge, and this is just from me using heat burst, so he doesn't even have a full heat gauge. He's actually able to abuse 1-1 for as many times as possible. Like that was about 5 or 6 1-1s for an example.
That's crazy. With
the properties that it has as well is crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially, his heat mode is enhanced versions of the moves I pointed out. More damage, different hit properties. Gets healing as well, so as you see the effect there flowing into him, so that's the healing I mentioned at the beginning of the video as well. And he also gets an additional buff on a couple of his Dragonfly moves, separate from the no sword stance stuff. So what gets buffed in this stance is his forward 1+2, which gives him frame advantage and a lot of chip damage, as you can see. And this is like 1-1, you can spam this move over and over by quickly transitioning into dual Dragonfly, and you can see how the chip damage is adding up. And if you get hit by this move, it knocks you away far into a wall splat. +4 on block, so you can kind of frame trap into 1-1 if they challenge. Like, look at that, man. Like, at the wall, that's an absolute nightmare. So if they even try to challenge at any point, you're just getting heat 1-1 after that and into a chunk of damage. And I can't stress enough the damage that he gets from his heat combos as well, which I'm going to demonstrate a very short basic heat combo. So if you walk into me, 1-1, he got that chunk of damage just from a few hits.
Yeah, nah, it's crazy. This character is absolutely crazy.
And an additional thing to mention regarding NSS as well, while his heat is active, if he uses NSS, it actually doesn't consume the heat. So he gets a free use of the enhanced move while he is active. So I'm going to demonstrate now. So let me get the sword back out. Now notice 1-1 uses heat here. I'm going to put the sword away. It didn't consume heat. So he gets a free use. So even when he's in heat, it's encouraged to keep entering no sword stance in neutral and in combos, so that when you have your opponent at advantage, you can throw out your option and you will not consume heat whether it hits or gets blocked. So always keep that in mind.
So when he has no sword stance,
yes,
because this is something I didn't know. Any move he does in no sword stance doesn't consume heat, but when he has sword, it consumes heat.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
But obviously bear in mind that the 6-frame flash, because I said that heat is essentially his no sword stance, that does mean his flash while the sword is out is the no sword version, so it will come out as 8 frames rather than 6 frames. But it does get the extended hitbox, so bear that in mind.
This character is crazy.
But to overall say how dangerous his heat mode is, it's the fact that he's getting healing, which is something no other character really gets besides, I would say, Jun. So he's getting healing in his combos, lots of damage, lots of very good hit properties, which I'm gonna quickly run through some counter hit properties as well, actually, in heat. So 1-1, as we've seen before. Let me just key charge actually. So 1-1. I would say this is not a counter hit property, but this is something that gets enhanced as well.
Sorry, my bad.
Kincho 2, 1+2.
Oh, you want me to get launched?
Well, that's one outcome. But if you block it now, he gets this guard break, which guarantees back 2-2. Which, if he's in heat, that means a guaranteed heat dash launch. So, yeah, I think his heat move is arguably one of the best in the game, purely because of the fact that not only is he pressuring you with stuff like that, I can't stress enough how good that heat engager is as well, by the way. 4-1+2 is easily, I would say, in terms of heat engagers, or heat dashes at the very least, 4-1+2 is his best heat dash, by far, alongside back 2-2, I would say. Back 2-2 you would use for your heat dash with punish, but 4-1+2 as a neutral tool for heat dash, easily one of the most disgusting heat engagers, because it tracks to his weak side, which is his right, so you step left usually against him. But because his NSS version of 4-1+2 has him lunging forward with the teleport, it seems to get some additional tracking on his strong side as well. So you're kind of forced to stand there and block a lot of the time, and it does the most chip damage out of his heat dashes as well. And as you've seen on hit, if you go forward, it provides a full launch, which I think is most of his heat engagers in this game. So I'm just going to quickly say what his heat engagers are as well. So 4-1+2, I mentioned before, 20 frame heat engager. You wouldn't really use this unless it was NSS version, because the raw version is kind of unremarkable, no range, -12. But as I've demonstrated his NSS version, you can see the increased range and how dangerous it is. Back 2-2, another heat engager for with punishment mainly. He has 3-1, which is a new move, 15 frames. Which you can use as a 15 frame punish, by the way, if you don't want to down. This does lead into Dragonfly as well, if it's not a heat engager, so bear that in mind. And then for stance heat engagers, he has Dragonfly 4, completely safe, which again is another full launch. Whoops. Yeah, if I... There you get hit by this. Another full launch. I think out of all of his heat engages, the only one that does not launch is his Kinjo Forward 2, which is his last heat engager, which is this, which has become a fully fledged homing move in this game. This actually wasn't homing in Tekken 7. It just had some tracking to like one side, but now it's fully homing. So yeah, I think his heat mode is definitely one of the strongest in the game, bar none.
Wicked. So if there is like, say for example, so we're gonna briefly just touch on the stances. We're not gonna touch on the moves.
Yes.
But if you can show me just what the stances and the stance names are called, and name them 1 to 3, because I know he has more than that, but 1 to 3 have most importance.
Okay.
Like not even these neutrals. Like no sword stance you can include.
Yeah.
But like just 1 to 3, but just name some of these stances. Cause I'm interested to know what stances are important and what isn't.
Okay, so outside of no sword stance, because again I've stressed that that's the most important one you need to use in this game.
Let's put that aside.
Yeah, let's put that aside. So the first one I would say for me personally is Dragonfly, mainly because it is tied to his heat mode, and simply because of the fact that he has a safe mid heat engager from this. He has a decent low option to mix up with as well, which is also a counter hit launch.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that he has a lot of good options from this stance. This is my next favorite stance to use next to no sword stance.
Okay.
The second one, definitely Kincho, mainly because he has decent options from this despite the mix-ups being fake, and he has a bunch of transitions to enter this stance as well, like while standing 4, down back 3, 3, 4, back 2. Yeah, he has a bunch of ways to get in, and it's also very strong in heat as well. Mainly because of things like that. You saw how much chip that did.
So how do you get into that stance? What's that for people that don't know?
Okay, so to get into Dragonfly stance, first of all, the manual transition is up 1+2. But to just name a few examples of getting into it other ways, I mentioned 3-4 earlier in Key Moves. When you hold up, he transitions into Dragonfly that way as well.
Okay.
He can also actually transition. He can transition between his stances universally as well.
Okay.
So from Dragonfly, you can actually transition into other stances and vice versa. So you have other ways to enter Dragonfly if you so choose. If you want to mix your opponent up. Oh, that was the wrong transition. I was meant to do this, which is a way you can kind of fake that move out actually, if you see there. And then to top off top 3 stances aside from NSS, his Indian stance, mainly because it did receive buffs in 1.05. This move now has received a lot of incredible changes to complement his stance game and his mix-up game at the wall. So I would definitely say, aside from NSS, Dragonfly, Kincho, Indian. Lab these stances, lab your options, lab your setups, because these stances are all very, very good now.
Sick. Alright, cool. So like, if there was 2 frame traps that you'd give to people, I know that you've got down back 4, sidestep 1. That's a key one. If you could give someone like maybe like one more of a frame trap. Ooh, sorry.
Careful. Okay, so
We got that.
he has a lot of frame traps that are kind of associated with Flash as well. So this is a risk that you can take sometimes if you're thinking that your opponent's going to press in the minor situation. So for example, you could do something like up forward 1 into Flash, because bear in mind the minus frames on block as well, because the move that you choose to follow up with Flash their success purely depends on the minus frames of the move you use. So notice how up forward 1 is -4. Now Flash is 6 frames with the sword out. So when you do the math, if you know that your opponent's going to commit to a big option, Flash is easily one of the most cheesiest frame traps you can do. You can even do like something like down forward 2 into Flash if you think your opponent's going to commit. He has so many frame traps that involve Flash, it's ridiculous. It's all a matter of like big reads and mind games, where you, like, depending on what button you think your opponent's going to do. So I would say as a counter to this, for all you guys that don't play Yoshi, lab your option when he tries to frame trap, because if you know the minus frames of his moves, then you will know to go for a quick poke or something like that. Like, be careful when being very committal. I would definitely say as well, full crouch down forward 4 is easily a low that you can do a frame trap in, because some people do tend to disrespect this on hit. So you could do something like a Flash if you think they're going to press, or do while standing 4 if you think they're going to press. You have a bunch of options from that as well due to the plus frames. So those are a few frame traps I would say you can definitely play around with, depending on how your opponent responds. And of course, 1-1 into flash is also a very cheeky frame trap. Even though it's -9, people have fallen for this in tournament. It worked for me at the mix-up. It still works now. So just be wary when you're trying to press your buttons. All I'm saying.
So I guess I can do 1-1 into victory then. Yeah,
basically, or even just do this. Like if you think they're gonna press, just do your spin evasion, back 3, back 4, and if they do a big commitment, you can just get like a punish in their side or a full launch, man. Depending on what happens, it's crazy.
I feel like before we wrap up the video, I feel like we should definitely talk about his spin, because we ain't spoke about his spin yet, and I feel like this is very crucial.
So to quickly cover his spin, so this is his other main defensive option besides flash. What makes this very effective in a game like Tekken 8 that centers around aggression is because of the fact that it gets him out of extremely aggressive situations like heat from all the characters, for example. And the reason why it's so strong right now is because since Tekken 7 it's been buffed so that it doesn't consume as much health. Like you can see there, it consumes only a tiny smidge of health when he does a single spin. This is how much health he's losing if he decides to spin to the point he gets dizzy. Now, if you time your spins well, you can create whiff situations where the opponent will be completely vulnerable in their side or their back. And then I'm going to sidestep round to you, like just assume that this is me spinning into your back. If you commit too much, he can easily get a combo like this in your back for chunky, guaranteed damage, which if you stand up during that, you will get relaunched again. So you need to be extremely careful when committing to big options against this spin, because I can't stress enough how powerful this option is, and people have been clamoring for nerfs on this thing to consume more health, which to be honest at this point I can understand it, because in Tag 2 he used to lose so much health for spinning out, and ever since he got buffed, yeah, like this gets used just as much as flash in terms of defensive options. One of the best movement tools in the game, and it's unique to him. No other character gets this benefit, and so many whiff situations have been created. It's created so many like good opportunities in tournaments for Yoshi players. Can't stress enough how good it is.
Alright, cool, man. Well, thank you very much for the Teach Me episode, man. I would like to just ask you one more question. Where do you think Yoshi is in the tier list? Right, we're not going to ask you to do a whole 34 character. What, we've got 34 characters now? We've got Lydia.
Yeah, it's true.
We've got 34 characters. I'm not asking you to do like a whole tier list, but you know, in terms of like, you know, top tier, upper mid, lower mid.
Okay, so
truthfully, where are you putting Yoshimitsu in version 1.6 so far?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to be as unbiased as possible, because obviously Yoshi is my main, and there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this character in terms of where he is tier wise because of how strong he is.
Sure.
I feel like at this point in the game, given all the patches that have come thus far, I feel like he is bordering on that top 5 threshold, because I feel like there are characters in this game that do some things better than him, mainly poking. Yeah. I do feel like poking and while standing punishment are the areas where Yoshi's lacking. So I'd say characters like Dragonov, Fang, Lily, King, I think all these characters are potentially stronger than him. But I will say as well, this also is very player dependent. But if you wanted a concrete opinion from me where Yoshi stands, he is bordering either on minimum or just outside top 5. That's where I would put him overall. But I would say don't sleep on this character. Like, he can rob you so many times in this game. Yep. It's actually unreal.
It's actually crazy. Alright, for the people that don't know your social media, where can they find you, man?
So you can find me on X at KaneAndTrench. You can find me on Instagram at RZ_KaneAndTrench. And you can also find me on Twitch as well at KaneAndTrench. So if I ever start streaming, you know where to go, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for doing this, man. You lot don't even realize that. I'm gonna show you lot something. This, look at the heat, bro. It's actually saying 30.6. So like I said, if you saw me like going like this and my eyes were fading, it's only because it's so hot in here. Like it's really hot. And like, I'm just happy that you even came down. 'Cause I was even saying to Kane, I was like, bro, you sure you want to do this? Because if it's hot in there, you know. He's like, bro, I don't mind. I was like, bro, it gets hot in there. He's like, bro, I don't mind. And yeah, we got it done. So
yeah, it was getting held off for too long, man. We needed to get it done, and I think having a personal touch on it was really helpful as well.
Nah, this was amazing. Like I said, like, for me personally, I feel like this is the first one that I've ever done live. Like, we've done loads of Teach Me's. Like, if you look at the Tekken 7, we had like Austin Ash, we've had like loads of different big names. And then obviously, like with Yoshi, I've always wanted to have you on for Yoshi. And then this one here being the first live one, yeah, man, I really appreciate it. So thank you for coming down. For the people watching, make sure you lot, when this goes up on YouTube, make sure you lot get the comment section, write your thoughts and stuff like that. You know, attack that engagement, because obviously it shares the video around. The more you engage, more thumbs up, more comments, and yeah, man, we'll be on to the next video for sure, man. We'll probably do another one talking about his stances in more depth as well at some point.
This character's loaded.
I can tell, man. But yeah, I hope you lot enjoyed, man.